Got a special treat for us this morning. I have Lindsay L. in studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Having me.
No, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. So let's talk about your history.
Yeah.
I know you're an Albertan.
I am born and raised. And I've been living in Nashville for the past 5 years, but it is always such an amazing feeling to come home and get a taste of winter and snow. And, you know, I've been playing music all my life. I started playing piano when I was 6 years old and picked up the guitar when I was 8. And started actually working with Mr. Randy Bachman from the Guess Who and BTO when I was about 13 years old. And Randy was the one who really got me interested in blues and jazz and rock guitar. So as a guitar player at an early age, I was obsessed about it. I couldn't stop listening to different guitar solos.
And what was that like to work with Randy? That must have just blown your mind.
It was crazy. You know, my parents were huge Guess Who fans. And so I'd listen to the music growing up and I knew all of it. So it was really neat to get to meet Randy and get to learn from him. You know, he really taught me how to write a song and I would see him in the studio, like, making all these crazy jazz chords up and down the neck. And when I was 13 at the time, I would just sit there with my eyes wide open and being like, Randy, what is that? That's so cool. And so he became like another dad to me growing up. And he is such a hard-working man. Like, still to this day, he's touring around the world and doing shows. I mean, he's been doing this career all of his life. But on top of that, he's just the most down-to-earth and kindest heart you're ever going to meet. So, and
I was reading that you have musical history within your family also.
Yeah. So my parents, like, my dad's an engineer and my mom works at the U of C, but all of them play instruments. So my dad plays anything pretty much with strings. My mom plays piano. My brother plays guitar. My grandparents all play instruments. So whenever we would get for family gatherings at Christmas or whatever, it would be a big family jam session.
Yeah, no doubt. Anyone breaking out the spoons?
Oh, yes. There's definitely hardcore rocking of the spoons.
Nice. That's what happens in my family. So what was it like to have all the success that you did in the U.S.? Because I know that you've toured with a bunch of people. Can you tell us a bit about that?
It's been crazy, you know. It's Nashville is such an amazing place to be able to call home. Just there's so many artists and so many songwriters and so much talent in one city that to be able to be in that environment and just sort of soak it all up as a sponge is a really cool thing to be able to do. And over the past couple of years, I've gotten to tour with the band Perry and Luke Bryan and open shows for Dierks Bentley and Blake Shelton. And it's just been sort of a lot of moments where you're just like, pinch me. This is not happening right now. This is crazy. And it's the coolest thing to me, though, is when you get to meet artists like that, you really realize that they're people just like us. You know, they put pants on one leg at a time and they wake up in the morning and drink coffee and eat breakfast and so that's been the neatest thing, is just being able to see that everybody's real human beings. And that's the awesome thing about country music, is it really embraces that. You know, it lets artists stay human beings and is like, you know what, we just want to proclaim your story to the world and we don't want you to have to change. So it's been a really amazing experience. Yeah,
you were saying earlier that when you moved to Nashville, you really felt like you had come home in a way.
Completely. Yeah, it's like everybody speaks the same language, you know. I can walk into the coffee shop and be talking about guitar pedals and, I don't know, all of this guitar nerd talk, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, is that the 624 model or whatever? So everybody sort of understands the same vibe a bit, which as a guitar player, as a musician, it's a really cool thing, you know, to be with like-minded people and all working towards a similar goal. And the neat thing about it is, you know, even growing up and playing so many shows in Edmonton as a little girl, I found this too. Everybody was really supportive of one another,
right?
And I feel like it's like that in Nashville. Like, everybody really wants to help each other out. You know, you're a group of friends and you're a family, and you're sort of all rooting for each other.
Well, that's good, because sometimes you hear that it can be a bit competitive with everyone, you know, trying to make it big and trying to make a name for themselves.
Absolutely. And times that I've spent in New York or LA, their music scene is obviously a little bit different, and different genres completely, you know, have a different world as well. But Nashville is sort of a one of a kind place like that.
And is that where you came up with some of the inspiration by your latest single, By the Way?
Absolutely. So By the Way was about a boy I dated a few years ago.
As it always begins.
As it always begins. It always begins about a boy, right? Good or bad. But yeah, I mean, hey, as girls, we get our hearts broken, and I eventually came to the fact that I just wasn't going to let it take me down anymore, you know? And so I remember growing up, Shania Twain and the Dixie Chicks, and there were all these really empowering females.
Right.
And so I wanted to write something that sort of had that message and was like, you know what? As women, we need to be strong, and we need to say, I'm not gonna put up with somebody who doesn't treat you how you should be treated, girl or guy, you know?
Yeah, it is a very empowering song. I was watching the video last night. How was that to shoot that? It looked like a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Basically, the premise is it looks like you're having fun. You're wandering around. You got wind blowing in your hair, a la Beyonce.
You know, the video came together in such a cool way. A good friend of mine from Calgary, Desmond Desmarais, we were in the studio, and I just called him and I was like, hey, just come bring your camera and hang out with us for the afternoon, and let's see what we can get. So we weren't even really planning to shoot a video that day, but he was just recording us in the studio, and then was like, hey, come outside and let's just shoot some stuff around the studio. And the next week after, he's like, I think you're gonna like what I put together. And then it just happened. So it's really neat when a music video can happen that raw and that organically, and you know, it's not some crazy storyline that we're dreaming up. It's just me being dorky me in a field.
Yeah, it looks really good, and people can find that on our Facebook page if they want to check it out. We've got that on there. Well, I hope you have a great tour. Thanks so much. And again, the weather, I hope it's cooperating for you. Where are you headed next?
I mean, fingers crossed. We're headed to Calgary next, and then Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then into Arkansas. So we're just bouncing all around.
Wow. Well, good luck in your travels.
Thank you so much.
And thanks so much for coming in.
It's so good to see you.
Thank you.